Welcome to Food and Facilities, an online show for West Coast Industrial Solutions magazine. Our goal is to cultivate knowledge to feed the world by focusing our quarterly trade issues on safety, compliance, and innovation within manufacturing, agriculture, food processing, and food and beverage industries. In this episode, we will be discussing proactive workplace safety with James Beretti of Beretti Inc., resources for manufacturers with Craig Sharton of CMTC Solutions, and gratitude and productivity with Lisa Ryan of Grategy. Welcome to Food and Facilities. I'm the Marketing Director of West Coast Industrial Solutions magazine, Tara Sweeney, and today we'll be discussing proactive workplace safety with James Beretti of Beretti Inc., resources for manufacturers with CMTC Solutions Craig Sharton, and gratitude and productivity with Grategy by Lisa Ryan. Make sure to subscribe at wcismag.com/subscribe for all safety and compliance news for manufacturing, food and beverage, food processing, and agriculture. My first guest today is James Beretti. He's a safety, health, and environmental services consultant. You can check him out at berettiinc.com or give him an email at james@berettiinc.com. James?
Hey, good morning, Tara. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. So thanks for having me on the program today. Really appreciate it. And I know we were going to talk a little bit about the positive parts of safety rather than being reactionary with safety. Especially in these days of COVID, and everything continues to change, it seems like almost on a daily basis with regard to any new regulations that we're facing, that's for sure. So anything in particular you would like me to cover at the moment, or what would you like? Just I'll dive right in and just kind of give you an idea.
Yeah, you have the 5 main steps of being more proactive with your safety in the workplace.
Okay, great. And if you're okay with this, I'm going to go ahead and share a screen.
Yeah.
It'll give us a little bit of something to a visual as we talk it through.
Sounds good.
So with that, as you can see on the screen here, with the PowerPoint, there really are 5 steps for success with regard to safety. And honestly, these can be applied without a pandemic going on. So they all work very well, but specifically with COVID, even though the regulations continue to change, and we know in California, we have seen 3 different sets of regulations come through. If you include the emergency regulations that were just signed by Cal OSHA this past week. Even with that, these 5 steps work very well. And I'll touch on those regulations here momentarily. But fairly quickly here, just to kind of cover the aspects of these, what you really want to do is assess. And this doesn't have to be anything really formal. It's really understanding and looking at your business, but looking at it from a risk standpoint and what could possibly happen. So really you're looking at it from a risk, identifying those things and then saying, what are we going to do to control those risks? So as an example, with regard to COVID, what are the risks that we have? Obviously, if we're interacting with customers and a very variety of customers, a large degree of customers, then our risk could be greater because you really don't know who is carrying what and how they're going ahead and maybe passing that on to us. We want to control it because from that standpoint, we create confidence within the workplace and with our customers that we are not going to be part of the spread. Also, we ensure that our businesses continue forward and we keep our greatest assets, our good employees, moving forward so that the business continues to operate. Once you get that into place and obviously you want to write a process. Now that's something that Cal OSHA has required and certainly has come out in the new emergency regulations that will become applicable within the next 10 days. Those also align with the other 2 regulations that have come about in California with regard to reporting to the California Department of Public Health, as well as reporting to Cal OSHA any of the incidents that may occur from COVID. So the written process actually formalizes what the controls are, and you can replicate what you're trying to get accomplished by having that in place. Again, this doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be a big book. It has to be practical and has to be implementable and very good at controlling the risk and the exposure we have. Of course, when you have that there, you want to engage for success. And engaging people, involves education. Tell them what you're doing, tell them how this works, tell them why you're doing it, and tell them what they need to do by when in order to make sure that this goes forward. From there, of course, you're doing implementation, meaning that, all right, we know what we have, we've got a process in place, we've already trained people and communicated. Again, these things don't have to take long. What we need to do is actually implement them. And from that, we can learn. So we can put things in place that work very well, but at the same time, we know that going through something new, we're probably not going to be perfect 100% the first time around. So when incidents do occur, instead of saying that, oh, gee, this whole thing doesn't work, instead we investigate so that we can make changes to improve the process, and therefore we learn from that and make it better. We identify a new risk, we come up with controls, we add it to our written process, we educate people for what's going on, we keep implementing it, and this actually looks like that whole continuous improvement process that really makes our businesses better as we continue through time. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we're talking about here. And I just wanted to share that briefly so at least we have some sort of a visual to talk through. Now, when we're talking about the regulations that have come about, a lot of that is really trying to define who does what by when. And essentially what they're doing is identifying what an outbreak would be, and that if you end up with an outbreak, which is defined as 3 or more people within a 14-day period, with COVID or suspected COVID, you need to, report that both to Cal OSHA, the California Department of Public Health, as well as having a written process in place. You're going to have to put a written process in place, much like what we've just kind of covered here. Then what you need to do is make sure that you educate people. And that can be your own employees, but your way of educating customers, maybe contractors, anybody who might be coming on site. So what we're seeing is a lot of companies are actually trying to restrict the amount of people and the number of people coming in on site. That also restricts the possibility and the probability of having a spread happen from that. So there's those things that are in place, the emergency regulations, some of whom have actually gone in place. Oh, heck, what? September? Excuse me, sorry about that. In September, and some of which are coming into place January 1st. Those are going to remain in place until January 1st of 2023, or unless, of course, the pandemic subsides during that time frame. So that kind of gives a rough idea. But Tara, are you seeing anything or hearing anything that people are specifically asking for with regard to any of the regulations or any of the safety things that people might be wanting to take? Any practices, any expectations?
I know a lot of people are having issues with responding to the changes quickly, and I think it's good to give them a baseline of what they should do at all times in order to be ready for when rollbacks happen.
Right. If there are going to be rollbacks or how that's going to act. As you can see over the past week or so, many of our counties in the state of California have definitely returned back to a purple, which starts to do the restriction in the number of people, plus the restriction of movement as much as possible. But what we're also seeing, and what I think we've learned since the time of March, April, if you will, is that a full-on lockdown is probably not likely. I think we'll see more and greater restrictions, but we also have better knowledge as to what prevents the spread. If you recall, in the beginning, we were talking about droplets, 6 feet, surfaces touching, that kind of thing, and not so much about masks. And as time has gone on, we've learned more and more about transmission, where masks are actually a very helpful part and a component of all the other things that we're doing, the social distancing, the cleanliness, the barriers, the restrictions. Some people are staggering work schedules and work start and stop times, limiting interaction with public. All of those things are actually together very helpful in preventing the spread. We can't do just one thing. We have to be looking at all of these things together in order to really kind of get ourselves out of this mode of transmission and into a mode of recovery. And that's truly what would help a lot of people, a lot of businesses as we move forward.
Definitely. It's like the comparison of why we have speed limits and still have to wear seat belts. It's all a layers upon layers of preventative precautions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of us, those of us who are watching this program and are subscribers of this program, we all also see this from a food safety standpoint. I mean, obviously the food safety standpoint came into being because of the incidents that kept occurring somewhere along the supply line. And so what happens by putting all those components into place, as long as they're all working together, we have a safe and secure food supply line, which actually builds confidence for our customers that what they're buying ends up being something that's safe and consumable for them. It's the same thing that we're talking about with safety from a COVID standpoint, that if I'm going and interacting with my coworker or if I'm interacting with customers or anything like that, I have confidence that you've put these things into place. So therefore, I am not exposed, but you need to have confidence in me that I've done the same thing in order to make sure that I'm not exposed. Therefore, we put the brake in place. Therefore, the virus has nothing to feed on, and therefore it starts to go away. That's the idea anyway.
Exactly. And we just need to make sure that everybody knows what is expected of them and communicate that so that they know the best preventative measures, because there's a lot of contradictory information out there that's not necessarily accurate, and we want to make sure that people know the true information that is accurate and best for their safety.
Absolutely. And to that end, I find that if you hear information, instead of going on just the information being reported, go to the source. Go to the source of the information, find out where it's come from. And over, what I find is that medical centers, medical universities, those entities that feed into the CDC or Johns Hopkins or anything like that, you can get through the noise to find out what really is going on and how you can actually make a difference in the spread. So there are a lot of simple things we can do. We just need to not become complacent. I know everybody has the fatigue factor going on. We've lived with this now for quite some time, and there have been a lot of questions about it, but quite honestly, a little bit longer, we can make it through, and we'll end up overcoming this together.
I think that's an amazing spot to close on. Would you like to share anything else with us, James? How would people get in contact with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime if you have any questions, certainly our website is a place you can go visit. We have a COVID page that actually links to the CDC. We also have some links up there for the California Department of Public Health, and that's where you can get your updated information on a regular basis. So certainly feel free to reach out. Not a problem. We'll answer your questions as best we can, point you the right direction, and look forward to breaking the cycle with this COVID virus.
Thank you for taking time to talk with me today, James. I look forward to being able to share more of your safety information with our readers.
Same here, Tara. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you soon.
Have a good day.
Okay, you too. Bye-bye.
One of our sponsors is California League of Food Producers. You can visit them at clfp.com or call them at 916-640-8150. They help bring California's goodness to the world through labor laws, water regulations, Proposition 65, labeling requirements, regulating chemicals, drinking water, transportation, greenhouse gas, cap and trade. My next guest is Craig Charton of CMTC Solutions. You can reach him at CSCHARTON@cmtc.com or give him a call at 559-317-9251. Welcome, Craig. How are you today?
Good. That's pretty cool how that you figured all this out, Tara. I was on my link, hoping I was at the right place. Pretty slick.
Well, it's nice to see you today. Can you give us a little background about you and CMTC Solutions for our listeners?
Sure. Well, CMTC is a statewide nonprofit. Every state and Puerto Rico has one just like us, and we are funded through the Department of Commerce and the state of California and Department of Defense and others to really get the information to manufacturers about programs or grants or training opportunities that are out there for them that, frankly, businesses don't have enough time to figure out what all these programs are or where they are and who they're for. And so that becomes my job, is learning about the programs and then going to our manufacturers and telling them about them. And then I represent the San Joaquin Valley. So any manufacturer, whether it's just I have a lady that makes soap in Los Banos in her kitchen. She's a manufacturer, up to food companies that have thousands of employees.
I know a lot of our small and medium manufacturers don't really consider themselves manufacturers. Can you give them a little more definition of what a small to medium manufacturer would look like?
It is a funny thing, because I think when we say manufacturer, our mind goes to smokestacks and welders and conveyor belts, but really a winery is a manufacturer. Our breweries are manufacturers. Coffee roaster are manufacturers. And again, Tom Matot with First Fold Tie Dye, makes his product in his garage with his daughters. So I really like helping a lot of those folks too, especially the startups and the small guys. So just think, if you take some product and you turn it into a new product, you're a manufacturer. We even have restaurants that maybe make and sell salsa on the side or salad dressing on the side, and they don't think of themselves as a manufacturer, but they really are. And so we have programs to help them as well.
And can you give us some outlines of programs that you have available and contacts you work with?
So we have a special grant available for businesses that are 20 or fewer employees located in the San Joaquin Valley. And that goes to, they can do either 24 hours with a professional to get their HR compliance, to get their QuickBooks online set up with a CPA. We have several different marketing options, from building a website to building an online store, to having a social media strategy or working on branding and logo. We have someone that does import-export. We have people that do lean manufacturing, which is a way of becoming more efficient in your manufacturing operations. So we have that for small guys. For the next size up to about 50 employees, we have some different grants that can help, again, with, like, one of our manufacturers never had an online store, and so we built that store out. We have funds called ETP from the state that do training. And for every one of our manufacturers, regardless of size, we have a program that we're doing that was funded through the CARES Act to help our manufacturers do an assessment of where they are and put together a plan for the next 30, 60, 90 days to help them come out of COVID stronger than they would have otherwise. And we have unbelievable people doing that. Like, we have Mike Goosen, who's a CPA, CFO for multiple companies, has his MBA. He's an author, a speaker, fantastic. He works with businesses if you're interested, especially in knowing where you are financially and what your financial goals might be. And then we have Bookie Ben-Ami, who was in the original group that founded Netafim. He's built and operated plants all over the world. He's a lean black belt and for lean manufacturing. And he also has his MBA in management. So we've got these two super talented, experienced people in manufacturing that, with no cost, are working with our businesses and helping them get on a good path.
And what are some things that you see that manufacturers are having a hard time with, especially now during COVID?
Well, a lot of them just either are trying to get their feet underneath them and figure out some kind of a plan. That's where the assessment and the plan of action really help, because it's been, I mean, some, just completely shut down for a few months, and others have more business than they've ever had before. And some got hit with orders because everyone panicked for parts, and then everything stopped for a while. So it's just hot and cold, up and down. And so it's kind of, it seems like they're all looking for trying to find a stable growth path again. We work very closely with the Fresno Regional Workforce Development Board. Training is a really big issue, whether that is training on like lean manufacturing, SolidWorks software training. We do a lot of that. High performance teams, getting people to communicate, especially new leaders. English as a second language, Spanish in the workplace, forklift safety training, all kinds of things that are in demand right now, that people are taking advantage of some of the training funds that are out there to get their employees trained and make an investment in them. Because believe it or not, you hear about unemployment and all these other things. Our manufacturers cannot find and keep enough good employees. That continues to be the number one roadblock that we have.
What are some things you wish more people knew about the manufacturing industry?
Well, it really is the backbone of an economy like ours. Certainly ag is, but ag also leads into a lot of manufacturing for equipment and technology and packaging and all kinds of things related to ag. But really the main thing is it is a great way for people to have a stable job, potential for career advancement, for potential for benefits. The high school degree is great. You can go in. A lot of these folks will do on-the-job training for you. So it really is a way for people to enter the middle class, just like we talk about having a strong middle class. Manufacturing is a really good way to have that. The other really great thing about manufacturing in our economy is people are making stuff here, selling it to people outside, and bringing that resource in. We let too much of our money leak out of the economy. We need to be bringing money into our economy, and manufacturing is a really great way to do it. And because we tend to be really nuts and bolts practical people, we're really good at it.
And you yourself are a titan of locavorism, and I think by working with CMTC, you're definitely supporting our local businesses and food.
I love that part. I mean, it's just, I don't know why anyone why we like to give our money to these out of town, say, restaurant where we're sending your profits. You probably don't even know where their headquarters is, and you're just shipping your money out of town. Support the local folks, our local breweries and wineries for sure. Our wines are winning awards like you can't believe. Fresno State is cranking out some of the most talented people through their enology program and winery at Fresno State. We have a lot of stuff to be proud of here, and really all of these businesses benefit when we become their great customer, and then they can add more customers.
Where are you seeing the manufacturing industry?
Go ahead.
Sorry. Where are you seeing the manufacturing industry going in the next 5 years?
Well, I think people are going to continue to, it's almost like either side of the spectrum. The people that are doing metal and other things are going to continue to invest in technology. And so employees are going to want to keep their skills sharp and know how to operate that machinery. And they're going to make better wages because of the responsibility. And on the other hand, I think there's still a lot of opportunity for craftsmanship and local people and makers. A maker is a manufacturer, sort of in a different sphere, I guess you could say. So places like IdeaWorks and Root Access and others where, and the pie shop where people are inventing things, learning how to make it, hopefully using a local manufacturer. Yeah, I'm working with a dentist who invented a valve for people that have had like prostate cancer and have a bag to contain their urine, a better valve. So it's a retired guy, figured it out, getting it patented. Now we're going to be looking for a local manufacturer to make it. That's really what we love to see, that innovation, creativity, hard work, supporting the locals.
Do you have any events with CMTC coming up soon or webinars?
You know, we have a webinar. If anyone wants to email me, it's just C Sharton. It's SCHARTON, C Sharton at CMTC.com, or you can find me on Facebook or Twitter or wherever. Or easier is Fresno Craig at Gmail. We have one coming up in the beginning of December. I believe it's December 10th. We're going to launch that Total Concept Enterprises, local manufacturer, launch their online store and go have Liz from Total Concepts and Adrian, our web developer, local consultant, talk about the process of doing an online store for a manufacturer, because they have something like 4,000 parts. So how do you build an online store? You know, it's one thing to have a screen shop and make a few different t-shirts, which we love, but to get all of those different products online was quite a feat. And so they'll talk about the process that they've gone through to make that happen.
What are some favorite projects that you've had with different local manufacturers?
Oh my gosh, it's hard to narrow it down. I will tell you, I had one guy who was a really good craftsman, but he really didn't know the business model. He was just good at doing what he does. And that happens a lot in manufacturing. And we paired the grant with the CPA. And the next time I was talking to him, I asked him a question about one of his products, and he said, oh, the gross margin wasn't there for those. So we eliminated. And I said, gross margin? You didn't know what a gross margin was before you had that grant. And now he knows these things. Or the people that had no employee handbook and were just kind of flying by the seat of their pants, when they get that HR compliance program out of the way, they sleep better at night. Those are the kinds of things I like. But we've got a really great marketing program, and we've had people, you know, one little business increase their sales $4,000 a month off of our marketing program. I love that.
Is there anything else you would like to share with our listeners today?
Well, I think we have to beam some appreciation at you. Thanks for what you're doing here to support. I mean, you've been very entrepreneurial in what you're doing, and you and I share that passion for wanting to help our local folks, especially in the food industry, but really all of our local businesses. And I admire when we first talked about you doing this kind of stuff, just to see how far it's come. And it's really great to see all of your good efforts working.
Well, thank you, Craig.
You are welcome, and I owe you an article too.
Yes, you do. So
a hint for me and many people is never extend our deadline.
yes.
Always tell us you need it earlier than you do.
Definitely. So how would people get in contact with you if they wanted to reach out and get some of the resources that CMTC offers?
Well, I would say probably just do Fresno Craig at Gmail, or you can call me at 559-281-9129. That's 281-9129. I'll set up a Zoom call for you. We do everything remotely at this point during the pandemic. We're very conservative about that. It doesn't matter what size your business is, whether you're a startup. I help a lot of people through the beginning process of starting a business. But I just kind of go through a series of questions, and we talk about your business to think about what kinds of things that you qualify for. Some are dependent on where you're located. Some are dependent on what size of a business. Some, we just got a new kind of funding specifically for food companies. So we just kind of go through that spreadsheet in my brain or that matrix in my brain until we find some things that might be the best fit for you. We do have some things right now that are pretty attractive. One is a training fund that's about to run out, but it's a really good one. So if you have any needs for training, or those new COVID training funds that we got, it's a really good deal if you're a food company and you've hired people since July 27th. That will qualify you for certain kinds of funding that can be helpful. So take advantage of that. We have a Made in California program. We put you on our website. It drives more traffic to your web page, which, gooses your opportunity to be in search results. Sometimes it helps people, especially as they're trying to. There's been a big shift in manufacturing where people are trying to find domestic parts in their supply chain, or if they're making parts, they want to be visible so other manufacturers can find them. There's been a huge shift in people that had offshored some of their business, bringing it back onshore. So if you're in manufacturing, you want to know about that, whether you're somewhere in the middle of the supply chain or you're at the top of the supply chain, that can be very helpful, but you want to be visible. I do have a list of local people that are making PPE, personal protective equipment, everything from masks to room dividers to floor decals to keep people 6 feet apart from each other. So whether you're a maker of any of those products, let me know and I'll add you to that list. But I'm also encouraging everyone, whether you're an individual or a business or a church or a government agency, if you're going to buy PPE, this is a great opportunity to put your focus back on local. So I've got a whole series of different masks from Snowflake Design and Wells Upholstery and First Fold Tie-Dye and others that you can have your mask made by someone here locally. Or like the EDC just had their conference room kind of set up with dividers made from one of our local manufacturers. Riley's Brewing is making hand sanitizer. So, you're going to spend that money, spend it here and keep it here so we can keep it circulating in our economy.
Definitely. Thank you for joining me today, Craig. It's always a pleasure, and I hope you have a good day.
All right. Thanks, Tara. Take care.
One of our sponsors today is Fine Print Plus. They're your source for print, packing, and promotion. And if you mention this ad, you can get 500 free business cards with purchase for new customers. They have graphic design, print and copies, custom apparel, promotional items, a parcel service, and now a will call and delivery service. Give them a call at 559-237-4747 or give them an email at graphics@fineprintplus.com or request a quote at fineprintplus.com/quote. My final guest this morning is Lisa Ryan of Grategy. She's a Chief Appreciation Strategist. You can reach her at 216-359-1134. And Lisa?
Hey, it's good to be here.
Good morning. How are you today?
I am just peachy, thanks. How about you?
I'm great. Can you give us a little background on yourself and Grategy?
Sure. Yeah, I have been this is my 10-year anniversary of having Grategy. I work specifically with manufacturing associations and their members to help them keep their top talent from becoming someone else's, and do that basically through speaking, training, and consulting. So it's been an interesting year now that everything has gone virtual, but I just had a pretty cool experience of being able to present this week as an avatar. And actually, unfortunately, my avatar could dance a little bit better than I can. So it's very fun.
Now, Grategy stands for Gratitude Strategy. What is one of the main retention issues you're seeing in the times of COVID?
There's a lot that goes on with that throughout the year, but particularly with COVID, because there's so many more issues involved now. Now we not only have employees showing up at the plant if they're there, but they're also, we have more remote employees, and now employees have issues with, childcare, and are their kids going to school this week, or are they hybrid, and, are they worried about their parents who are in assisted living and they can't see them? They have all of these other issues. So if it's really only about the work, hey, why didn't you get your job done? Hey, how's it going on the job? We really need to reach out in a different capacity now. How are you doing through all of this? And really expressing appreciation for the efforts that employees are making, because whatever, you're really setting a precedent right now for once we get to that magical time, that I like to refer to as post-COVID, those two magical words. I can't wait until it shows up like that. But employees are going to decide, am I going to stay with this company or not? Did my boss reach out to me? Did they seem like they cared about me as a person, or were they just on me all the time because it was only about the business and only about making a profit and all of that? So really staying connected, communicating regularly, saying thank you, appreciating employees, letting them know the things that they're doing well, instead of just harping on all the things that maybe aren't going that well.
And especially now when there's lower employment in manufacturing, it's important to retain your skilled labor force.
Well, and especially if you look at the numbers are scary. They're talking as many as 2.4 million jobs going unfilled by the year 2028. So not only do we need to change the conversation when it comes to manufacturing to encourage students to go into trade and technical schools, as businesses to partner with local trade and technical schools, because you can actually special order basically the students that you want by working with your local community colleges and putting those plans in place. But now more than ever, when you have good employees, you need to figure out how to keep them, because they are not plentiful. And there's going to be a lot of businesses that aren't going to be able to, get orders filled because they don't have the manpower to do it.
And it's a social issue where we focus mostly on the college track of education when manufacturing is still such a core part of our economy.
Yeah, and it really, I'm glad you brought that up, because it starts with the guidance counselors. You look at the whole, the scope of the guidance counselor's job, and it's to help that high school kid to figure out what college they're going to go to. Well, guess what? Not every kid is cut out for college, nor should every kid go to college. So why would you encourage somebody to rack up tens of thousands of dollars in student loan debt in something that they're not going to like, or they're not going to be able to get a job in, when you have these kids that are great with their hands, they love technical stuff, they love technology. And as you know, I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, that when you have the technology, the cleanliness, the excitement that is going on in manufacturing today, this is the conversations that we have to have with guidance counselors and parents to let them know that it's okay that your kid is going into manufacturing or the trades, because they're going to have a job where they're going to make a great living, have work-life integration, work-life balance, and have something and do something that they like, and they can support their family without encouraging a ton of debt.
What are some spots that you can see that manufacturing needs to work on most with the gratitude for their workforce?
A lot of times gratitude is considered like soft or fluffy, or why should I thank my employees for doing their job? I mean, isn't that what they get a paycheck for every Friday? And it's not the case. You have to realize that when you appreciate your employees, when you catch them in the act of doing things well, when you build relationships and create that team mentality, that people, maybe they don't love what they're doing, 40 hours a week or whatever, but at least they like coming to work. and you're creating that type of culture, because there's nothing soft about gratitude. You're going to have more engaged employees who are going to be more productive, who are going to stay with your company longer, who are going to, be able to, instead of that hamster wheel of constantly hiring, constantly looking for people to fill positions, and then you treat them like crap and they ghost you after lunch. It's just realizing that just by being nice to people and appreciating them, and yes, holding accountable. I'm not saying that, everything has to be, everything you do is so great all the time, because if an employee's messing up, you let them know and you hold them accountable. But erring more on the side of catching them in the act of doing things well and building that workplace culture that feels good to the employees, that's how you're going to keep them.
And you recently hosted a employee retention summit for manufacturers. What was one of the most interesting things you learned when you were there?
It was funny. I had 25 speakers over 3 days in 24 slots. There was one foundry that I had two of their people, one of their sales manager and their human resources manager came on. But without exception, whether it was an economist or plant manager or, a speaker or whatever it was, it all comes down to culture. And that culture starts at the top. If managers or if company owners and leaders are thinking that employee engagement is an HR thing and they're just relegating it to HR, and they are not walking the talk because they don't really truly believe it from the bottom of their heart, then it's not going to work. So it was kind of funny because as many people, like I said, you had 25 people sharing their ideas, their thoughts, their strategies. And it really comes down to, what is your workplace culture, and do you care enough about your organization, from the top down to create the type of workplace that people want to come to.
What are some simple habits you can suggest that management starts implementing in order to have a better work culture?
Well, if you are a manager or an owner who this is kind of stepping out of your comfort zone and you're not used to it, I would actually start with what I call the apology approach. And that is simply, you know what, guys, I have not been letting you know how much I appreciate you and the job you do. And I am going to make a more of an effort to do so. Now your employees know that there's something behind it, and it's not just something that, oh no, he's never thanked me before. What's he want? And also coming into it, maybe there's a lot of things that you can do. There's lots of areas to focus on, but too many times managers will come back from a conference or a seminar with all of these great ideas that they want to implement right away. And it just becomes one more flavor of the week. And employees don't trust it because management will try it for a couple days or a couple weeks and, oh, that didn't work. And then they go on to the next thing. It's finding that one thing. Maybe your one thing is walking through the plant and acknowledging employees by name and saying, hey, Tara, how you doing today? Because if I come up to you in the plant, number one, if I'm the owner and I say, hey, Tara, how you doing? You're going to be like, oh my goodness, she knows my name. So there's that connection, and she cares enough to say hello to me. And from my standpoint, I can say, when I say, hey, Tara, I can judge from your response, is Tara having a good day? Is she normally a happy employee, but there's something off today? And now I know that, and I can say, hey, Tara, what's going on with you? It doesn't seem, is there's something I can help with, or because that way, you are connecting, wow, she really does care about me. And now you're going to want to work harder for me because you feel connected. So it's as little as, saying good morning, saying thanks for coming in, and being specific. Tara, I really appreciate the fact that you, stayed over 45 minutes yesterday to help us get that order out. I know you had other plans. It means a lot. And, just thanks for doing that. Because otherwise, you blow off your plans to stay at work 45 minutes extra, and I never even acknowledge you because I'm like, well, she's getting time and a half for it. Why do I have to thank her for it? Next time I ask you, you're going to say, you know what, I got plans. I can't do it. So it keeps coming back to being specific, being sincere, being intentional in catching employees doing things well.
And like you said, it not only makes sure you retain your employees, but it also improves their productivity.
Absolutely. You think about it, if employees really like what they do, they respect you as a person, they feel that they are contributing to a greater mission in the organization that they're working for, they are going to work harder. But if it's just that it's just a job that pays the bills and they really have no loyalty, number one, they're not going to give their best effort. They're going to do basically just enough work so that they don't get fired. And then the next time some other company comes in the area and offers them 50 cents more an hour, guess what? They're gone.
And what are some things you're seeing in the manufacturing industry in the next 5 years?
Technology is a huge part of it. And there's a part of us that say, well, we're not going to need as many employees because we're going to have a lot more automation. Well, you may not need as many employees to do the grinding work, the repetitive work, because that can be easily outsourced, and now you're making the plant a safer place. But you're still going to need people who are who are programming the equipment, who are running the machines, who are keeping an eye on things. You're going to need maintenance. You're going to need welders. You're going to need all of these positions, no matter what the plant of the future looks like. But I remember when I was in the welding industry, back in the late 90s, and it was really everything your mother ever warned you about. It was dirty, it was stinky, it was, people had the maintenance guys who I called on had inappropriate posters and calendars all over their walls. Now, I go on plant tours and it's bright and shiny and clean, and the technology and the robots and everything that you see is, it goes back to changing the conversation and letting people know that this is not, of the old days. But you look at students that are training for jobs now that don't exist yet. And so being open and conveying these exciting possibilities that are opening up every single day in manufacturing. And that's how we start to really attract the people that we want, who are going to stay with us for the long term.
What are some things you wish more people knew about the manufacturing industry?
I really wish that they knew that it was a good, solid career path. I know back in the day when I was in school, and I actually took wood shop and metal shop because I liked it and I didn't want to take home ec. But for the most part, back in those days, when you looked at the people in those programs, they were kind of like the troublemakers. They were the bad kids. And I think that parents have that perception that, oh, there's something better about my kid is going to this college or my kid is going to that college. And, getting into the trades or in manufacturing is looking at a second class option. And that is not the case at all. When you're in manufacturing, again, you're not taking home that level of stress and everything that comes sometimes with a more of a, white collar type of job when you're working all hours of the days and night. You have the opportunity to create that work-life balance, to spend more time with your family because, you're working specific hours and then you go home. And it's also realizing that you are such an important part of this country's economy. Manufacturing is still, we are the second largest manufacturer in the world as far as what we produce. And sometimes that knowledge gets away from us, where we are, it's an important part of every single thing that we do. And like I said, I can go on and on about changing the conversation, but just be okay. And one of the other things too, one of the people in the summit was working at a foundry. And what they did is they had a meeting, so they closed down the foundry for a day. And while the foundry was closed, they invited the employees to bring their family to work. They literally had a bring your family to work day. Now, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to do it. It's not safe when the foundry's running. And so you think that these people, they're not going to have that amount of pride in what they do. And yet, as they're walking through the foundry, they're showing their family, they're showing their kids, this is what I do, this is where I work. And there's probably a certain percentage of those children walking through the plant going, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. This is what I want to do. So the other really important thing is to look for ways to expose kids to manufacturing, utilizing things like manufacturing day. Have a bring your kid or bring your family to work day so that they can see the operations, because other than coming from you, their chance of being exposed to manufacturing in any other part of their life is really low right now.
One of our efforts that we've been trying to do is connect our local CTE career technical education programs with local manufacturers, because it's very important to show the kids that what they're learning does apply to a lot of very valuable industries.
Yep. Yeah, and like I said, and the thing is that the manufacturers that are going into the schools, well, when they can again, most schools aren't letting them right now, but when they're going in, when they're meeting the kids, when they're building those relationships, when they're sharing what they do, guess who's going to get those kids when they get out of school? You're going to have first dibs basically on that crop of students. Because most of them in the trade or technical school, you know what, they have jobs by the time they leave. So if you're waiting for them to graduate, it's probably too late.
Is there anything else you would like to add or share with our listeners?
You know, it really comes down to the personal relationships that you have with your employees, to, you know, let them know that they are an integral part of your business. And not only are you investing in them with the skills that they need to do their specific job, but investing in them personally, you know, giving them the opportunity to, you know, take business classes, take public speaking classes, take supervisory classes, things that are helping them to grow as a person. Because when you look and consider your employees as a whole person and not just a means to an end of getting your product done and manufactured and out the door, that's how you build the relationships, and that's how you keep your top talent from becoming someone else's.
That's an amazing spot to close. How would people get in contact with you if they'd like to work with you to learn more about gratitude?
Sure, absolutely. My website is LisaRyanSpeaks.com, and I'm also extremely active on LinkedIn. So if you are in social media, you know, if you're on social media, there are tons of articles and resources and videos on my LinkedIn profile. Just pop a note in there that you heard me here, and I'm happy to connect.
Thank you, Lisa, and I hope you have a good day.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Our last sponsor for the day is Dynamic Coatings Incorporated. They are a concrete restoration and flooring solution. They offer seamless, antimicrobial, durable, dustproof, and fast cure epoxy sealants for concrete floors. They are USDA, FDA, OSHA, and HACCP compliant. You can reach them at their Sacramento location at 916-485-6800, their Oakland location at 510-352-7000, their Fresno location at 559-225-4605, and their Los Angeles location at 582-634-9887, or reach them at dciflooring.com. And now we will have a moment of silence for our Black Lives Matter community.